Well, before I get too far into this, I want to, well, I'll tell you that we're still in the theme for this month of July, which is at liberty. And today's topic is titled Choice, Chance, and Change. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go along. But I have to start out with the thing that's on my mind and my heart the most. And it's bubbling and stuff. So one of my favorite quotes, and I think I have a poster, I have a bumper sticker, I have a shirt it's from Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, and it is, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." Oh, you're laughing like, why would I choose that for me? But I do. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, yes, they rarely make history, and I do consider myself well-behaved, particularly in public venues. And yesterday I got to participate. I didn't make history, but I got to participate in history, in a historical major sense as well as a very personal one. So I have the distinct pleasure and privilege of announcing to you yesterday there was a wedding here. Weddings just make you giggle. And so it is my pleasure to introduce to you the newest married couple of our community. So would you please send your love to the husbands, Mr. James Babcock and Robert O'Neill. Please stand and lay! Yay! Thank you. And their best man, Dan, is here with us today. And it was an extraordinary opportunity, as I said, because for me, see, I had to be really, well-behaved yesterday. I was facilitating a wedding, for crying out loud. But it was the most extraordinary wedding, second only to ours, honey. But because it was so full of the depth and the breadth of the history of what it meant to be there, to be able to do this ceremony yesterday. But what was the love was so, the walls just melted. It was just a delicious day and ceremony and a wonderful opportunity. And thank you for sharing it with our community. And because I couldn't blow the surprise, David, we should have had actually wedding cake and party morsels instead of cornucopias for that, because after service you get to share, and Hazel has been helping, and we're going to celebrate and honor the newlyweds. I know. I mean, it just filled my whole day. I didn't even, okay. It did. I'm crying. I've got goosebumps, but I was well behaved. Right? Okay. So, thank you. Whew. All right. And isn't it nice, newlyweds don't always come to church the day after they get married. So I'm really happy to see you guys here today. So that's really nice. All right. Choice, chance, change. In addition to the fact that it's alliterative, and I love alliteration, I was looking for quotes last night about choice. Since we're at liberty, this is the month of freedom, and I knew I wanted today's talk to be about choice, because what we shared yesterday was a huge choice. It was taking a chance, and it was a change. And so when I came across this quote on the internet, it was with a beautiful graphic, and it did not have any attribution to it, so I don't know who to thank, other than the fact that under the quote, it was from www.don'tgiveupworld.com. That's all I know, so I'm being ethical here. And the quote was, "You must make a choice to take a chance, or your life will never change." And so now I heard that. That's why I got struck by it. I went, oh, that's my talk. That's the title. So I'm going to read that again, because, again, it reflected yesterday's wonderful ceremony and the history that's transformed in June 27th when the Supreme Court made that decision. And it's very science of mind. You must make a choice to take a chance, or your life will never change. Now, in some ways, that may sound like, the kind of deep breath, take a gulp, and then making a choice to take a chance and make a change, that it may sound really big and almost scary, but that's not it, because frankly, in my opinion, based on what we teach in religious science, every time we think a new thought to change our intention, to change our life, we are taking a chance to make a change. We are putting ourselves in that space and place emotionally, physically, and spiritually by which we open ourselves up to be at liberty to spirit to make that change. Deepak Chopra writes, no matter what the situation, remind yourself, I have a choice. And if liberty is the right to choose, freedom is the result. So if we're talking about at liberty this month, usually inspired by July 4th or Bastille Day, and it's a great time to reflect on the idea of liberty and freedom beyond just the American history aspect of it, but truly the freedom to think of who we are and to use this instrument that we have in the way that we choose. And sometimes to choose to think thoughts towards your authentic self or your bigger goals and dreams and desires feels like taking a chance. I don't know how many of you grew up. Did people grow up with King's X? I've done that, and then I've had other people go, what are you doing? But when I grew up as a kid, King's X was sort of like this magical thing you did with your fingers, which made anything you were about to say or do happen like safe. And it's like, okay, I hope it will happen. King's X. I don't know. I have to research that now that I'm saying that to myself. So when we think about wanting to make a change, and it feels like we're taking a chance, sometimes we hold our breath and it's King's X, okay, and then we say those words that are often misused or misunderstood in our teaching, which is, I hope that this will happen. I hope. Well, as religious scientists, what do we know? We had a long conversation about that word hope in our class this summer. Because hope is often attributed to a wishy-washy, King's X, oh my gosh, it's a fluke, and if only it could happen, without the construct of science of mind of knowing it will happen. And yet, we talked about the idea that hope is a thing with feathers. Hope is that lightness that brings us to a soft space by which it may give us the invitation to have the courage to take a chance, to change our thinking, to change our life. So hope can be an ingredient. Hope to me is sort of like a little bit of sweetener on the top or chocolate sprinkles on that. It doesn't have to be the, oh my gosh, please, please, please. Hope because you don't have faith or trust. Hope can be the sweetener that allows you to take that next step to know what it is that you want to choose. So when we talk about this, we're talking about choice, chance, and change. And in order to change, we must make a choice. And sometimes in order to make a choice, we must make a change. Depends on where you're standing, what you're choosing. It took me many years to get to was that being at choice was probably the most powerful thing I had. Using my thought, being at choice. Whereas I am the type of person who will spend inordinate amount of time making a choice sometimes or a decision. Oh, well, that one is really good. Well, but that one's on sale, but that one would really fit in, but that one I can buy. If you were not a religious scientist, someone might say, well, Reverend Duchess, you have Libra rising, so of course you're having to do this. You're not making a choice. The Libra is always looking at both sides, trying to make the decision. Well, you can write it off as that as well. The idea being usually is that I want to make the right choice. Has anyone else been there? It's like you have a decision, whether it's what restaurant you're going to go to for brunch, or what college you're going to go to, or who you want to live your life with. So whether it's a small, minor decision on a daily basis or the big life decisions, most of us, when we're weighing those decisions, want it to be the right choice. Well, if I go this way, this is what's going to happen, and that would be okay. Or if I go this way, that would be okay. I don't know what to choose. I don't know what's right. I don't know what's for my highest good. Freeze frame. Come back to being a religious scientist. Come back to using the skills, the tools that we have and we teach and we promote about meditation and spiritual mind treatment and prayer to get centered and surrendering it to the higher power so that it is God, spirit, call it what you will, capital L life, God's idea of what takes place next, not your idea. Because your idea as a little small self is going, well, I could do that or I could do that. If you get out of the way of both of those, you have kind of an open path by which Spirit gets to move through you with a higher vision. And we often forget that. We often forget, and we wring our hands and we furrow our brows and we try and make the right choice. We try and take all the parameters into construct and, well, if I do this and I do that, and it feels burdensome. Even talking about it right now, it feels like my shoulders are up and I'm making, pterodactyl faces, and it's really more about, oh, I see what I'm doing. And yes, we must do our work. And I don't mean just the spiritual work. Yes, if we're making a decision in our life, we fact find. Whether it's, let me look up on the internet what restaurants, do they have gluten-free food? Is it vegetarian? You fact find, and then you make your choice from that, of course. But chances are, when you fact find, you start to eliminate things, and then there's still usually one or two things that remain from which you must choose. Well, there are 3 wonderful vegetarian restaurants. Which one shall I choose? Well, by getting clear and knowing your higher intention, it becomes effortless. But usually we kind of convolute this. We get into the mix and we try and control, and we forget that we have a higher order, that we have an infinite intelligence that has I think of the infinite intelligence as bigger than the internet. I mean, the internet was created by infinite intelligence through different people, how they crafted it and figured out HTML, et cetera, but it is such a perfect outpicturing or mirroring of the infinite intelligence. So if you think that at your fingertips or your phone or your laptop that you have access to the wisdom of the world, you do, but guess what? You sit at home or here in your chair, you get still, quiet, calm, open up to that infinite intelligence, capital I on both of those. You will have the resource beyond anything that you've ever dreamed of. Huge amounts of wisdom, inspiration, by which it gives you a sense of that hope, or enthusiasm and passion and purpose by which to take a chance and make a choice, or make a choice and take a chance. And within all of that, we come back to science of mind, which is when we do our work, whether it's fact-finding or it is doing our spiritual practice and our prayer work, once we've done that, we get to surrender it and say, oh, higher order prevails. So what comes forth is the right choice. And I may be paraphrasing it, and I know who will correct me, but I believe it was Henry Ford who said, when you choose, you don't have to worry about choosing right, something right, or the best. You choose, and then you make it right. Because it already is. It contains within it that infinite wisdom. If it is the choice you've made, and you take a chance on that choice, and you start moving forward, you have made it right. Now, I'm going to do a sidebar here that I hadn't planned on doing because it just wasn't in my talk originally, but I got up early this morning and I was going to the track to walk, and I was listening to, I think it was NPR or the local, whatever it was, and there was the last 2 or 3 minutes of an interview with Dr. Mitchell Gaynor, and he was talking about, and I didn't know this at first, I had to wait till they finished it. I pulled into the track, and I kept the radio on so I could hear what it was, and he was talking about epigenetics. Isn't that a fun word? Even if you don't know what it means, it's just like epigenetics. It has kind of like a little bubble in it. Epigenetic. Anyway, he was talking about the new behavioral science of epigenetics and the value of meditation. So that's what caught my eye. My eye? Yeah, we were like, it's what caught my ear. But it was the greater eye of God. But it caught my ear, and he was talking about how meditation had supported certain patients through some difficult things and blah, blah, and I'm thinking, well, talk to me, what are you talking about? So I pull in, and he's talking about this new science that allows us to understand our genes and our DNA differently. He said he was of the generation that grew up with, you were stuck with your DNA, stuck with your genetic imprint, that's it, you're done. Now, scientists, physicists, and epigeneticists have found that that's not necessarily true, that we can change that. And there's part of me going, la, 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 we knew that, la, 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 la. Change your thinking, change your life? Yeah, okay, tell me something I don't know. But I wasn't snarky. I was listening, and he was talking about how the value of meditation will shift your current genetic makeup so that you aren't carrying the imprint of ancestry, and you're shifting your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being right now. He went on to say, and so I'm going to have to order his book because the interview ended. He went on to say that from this epigenetics that even stress is shared that way. That generations from people who experience stress, either modest stress to extreme stress, such as the Holocaust is what he mentioned, carry that now in their DNA structure. So he was saying even more so, not just for oneself to be healthy and whole and balanced, but for one's generations to come, that meditation was really a key factor. Now, as I said, this was this morning, so I don't know, I didn't get to Google him yet. I didn't get to find out about the book. I know that I'm going to see what kind of a medical physician he is. Medical physician, yes, maybe he's more of a metaphysician, and see what he's talking about so that we're approaching it both scientifically, as in religious science, as well as metaphysically, the spiritual concept of what he's saying, and see why this guy, this MD guy, is promoting meditation as shifting our health and well-being and moving it from the generations behind us to the generations forward. So I didn't plan on giving a plug to Dr. Johnny's class, but I'm thinking, again, it's kind of all the same new construct, which is changing your brain and changing your life. And this time, Johnny is bringing in Gail Womack, who is a seasoned meditator, to kind of balance the scientific side of what your brain does. You know, I always, whenever she talks about the brain stuff, I remember the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz, the square of the hypotenuse, and you know, the linear stuff of the brain. And then there's the Leo the lion, almost Leo, almost, whoever else is here. There you are. That the heart part comes with that spirituality of doing the meditation and then bringing it all together as one, not having it be separate. So we have the opportunity in her class, and probably for August and September I may be talking, I have to read this epigenetic person, what he's saying about that. I want to quote Richard Bach, who are you all familiar? Remember Richard Bach? Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions. He writes, every person, all the events of your life are there because you have drawn them there. What you choose to do with them is up to you. Now that sounds almost like good news, and then every once in a while, depending upon what situations are in front of you, it's not so good news. And lately, there's been a vortex of opportunity around me and work and home that have given me an opportunity to look at that and really have to practice what I teach, in that if it is every person in the events of your life are there because you have drawn them there, what you choose to do with them is up to you. And I've had a couple of particular things where it's like, whoop, whoop, dip, dip, why did I draw that? I am this well-behaved, wonderful, loving, spiritual being, you know, sending out love and flowers and prayers and doing all the right things and eating all the right foods and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, like the vision I have is like you're in a windshield and somebody's throwing tomatoes at you and it splats. It's nothing really horrible. It's just annoying, frustrating, blocks and obstructs your vision for a while, and then you have to clean off the windshield. And so I have been looking at these things that have been going on this week that have kind of tried to knock me off my balance and my center. And I've looked at it, and at first it was like, oh, and then it was like, what did I do to draw this? What am I thinking? And I went, oh my goodness, Duchess, you're doing exactly what you tell other people not to do. Don't go into the shoulds and, well, what were you thinking to draw that person or that situation? Ooh, where are your thoughts today? So I had to get rid of that. Then I had to forgive myself for that judgment. And then I had to get back to what you choose to do with them is up to you. So if I've been having negative thoughts and didn't even know it, and I was out picturing this, how I respond to this negative situation is up to me. And I noticed throughout the week that I have been bringing it back up. It comes back up in my thoughts. It comes back up. Just, I think I have one of those little imps inside that goes, oh, you're getting ready to go to sleep? You've had a lovely day. You've said your prayers, counted your blessings. Hey, do you remember what happened today? Ha, ha, ha. And then I kind of startle, and then I replay the negative situation or the conversation or whatever it was that came up, and I can feel my heart start to, beat faster and quicken, and I get, oh, what? And then it's like, no, Duchess, remember, peace, you're about ready to go to bed. But I think there's a part of me that loves to do that. It's just this, I was an only child, but if I had a brother, I bet that's what it would have been like. You're just about to go to sleep, and then they come in and they pinch you, or they throw water on you, whatever brothers do. I don't know. But it's something that it's like, So I have been playing with these external circumstances and the cast of characters within them and looking at them, and I had to get beyond that. And I had to get, okay, when someone throws a tomato on your windshield, or someone cuts you off in the freeway, or someone says or does things even ruder than that, and that was my experience this week, you have a human reaction. Okay. But you don't have to take it to the second, third, and fourth, and fifth step. You have the human reaction, you get clear, you may choose to bless them, you may choose to clean off your windshield and kind of, you feel like I've been slimed in Ghostbusters, and I literally, the other night after this very rude email, I took a shower because I've just felt so negative, and I went into it, guys. I'm only telling you this because sometimes, not that it happens to any of you, sometimes people think that, ministers up here, it's like, you lead a perfect life. You have no negative thoughts. Rain never falls on your head, and there are no mud puddles. The difference is, well, A, I like rain. But B, if there's a mud puddle and I happen to step in it and it splashes me, I still might have the same reaction you do initially. Then I can clean it off, and I can shift it, and I can move on. It's what I do with that. But I watched myself this week not do with it what I would advise all of you to do with it. So I had the opportunity to live this teaching, to walk my talk, and practice what I literally preach, and change how I respond to what happens to me on the outside. And then as I got higher into it, and I did call my practitioner, by the way, another plug, because I realized I had been so tweaked out of it. I did get prayer. I got prayer twice, actually. And then I started moving back and thinking, okay, perhaps I didn't draw these people or these situations to me because I was thinking poorly. Perhaps I drew them as an opportunity to do one of two things. One, to be nicer to myself, to not have that judgment on myself and slime myself. Or two, maybe they were drawn to me because they needed something of my light and my wisdom. Maybe they needed me not to react the way, when somebody does something to us, we automatically go, yeah, I'll show you. We get defensive. We're human. We want to, when somebody does something rude, I was about to say it won't, we respond. Maybe they needed me to not respond. Maybe they need me to see them in the light instead of, maybe they need me to bless them instead of curse them. And maybe they were drawn, like a moth is drawn to the flame. Maybe. I'm not saying that like, I don't know the bigger picture. Sometimes we don't know that from on high yet, why all of these things were happening and what it was and why I needed to get pulled out of what I considered that wholeness, that oneness, that balance, that perfection, why it felt like somebody did that. I don't know. Maybe I'll know later, maybe I won't. What is important is how I respond to it and what I do with it so that I am at liberty to choose to take a chance and change my thinking about it. Because it's just so easy to get right back into it and want to say, oh, wait till I tell you what happened to me this weekend. There's something about our human animals that loves to get into that drama. So I have made a new affirmation last month, and I didn't share it with everybody, but I'll share it now. I have affirmed that I only want to experience drama on stage, not in my life or my work. I'll go to the cinema. I'll go to the theater. I will do it there, where I was originally. That's where it all started for me. And what I figured out for myself was there was probably a little chip, like a computer chip in my brain that said, oh, Duchess, you love theatrics. You love drama. You love all that. We'll just keep giving you some. And I didn't correct the data input saying, keep it on the stage, keep it on the film, do that. Not in my workplace, not in my home, not in my life. So that's where I'm keeping drama, because I'm choosing to respond that way, not because I'm being subject or victim to it. I'm going to go into Holmes. Ernest Holmes, our founder guy. I read this quote last week because we were talking about freedom, and I want to read it again because I think it's important as I lead into the next thing. This is the definition in our textbook, the Science of Mind textbook, on freedom. Real freedom means that man is created in the image and perfection, and let alone he will be allowed to make the discovery for himself. Freedom of will means the ability to do, say, and think as one wishes, to express life as one personally desires. As man realizes his oneness with creative mind, he is released from the bondage of false thinking. He sees, too, that freedom means liberty, not license. So I am at liberty to change my thinking. I am at liberty to either sit in the metaphoric car with a gunk on the windshield and sit there and pout and get angry and snarky, and then it's uncomfortable and hot in that car, and then I'm adding that insult to injury and la 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 la, and Judge Judy would certainly rule in my favor, because when you know all the details, yeah, you have been wrong, Missy. Or you shake yourself out of it, blah, 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 and you get out of that metaphoric car, and then you take it to the car wash, and you wash it, or you wash yourself of all of that negativity, and you go, what was I thinking? Isn't that a great phrase? We have that thought. We've had that. That's a sentence people say, oh, what was I thinking? Exactly. What was I thinking? And in this moment, I can choose how to change that thinking. And so Dr. Holmes goes on, and I went in again to see, well, what words, what does he use for liberty, freedom, choice, etc.? He has a few. Will. Will means the conscious ability to determine. I think that's where willpower comes from. I have the will, the stamina. I'm going to determine what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go. Choice. The ability to differentiate and choose. Yes, that's the good news. That's a very powerful place to be, to know that you may choose. You differentiate from which restaurant you want to go to, what school you want to go to, or what color you want to wear, and then you decide, you choose. Then volition, the power to act independently. Well, I like that. I like being the independent. Well, I have the volition to do this. So maybe if you're thinking that you don't like, well, I'm at choice, because everybody is at choice. Well, you have volition on your side. Intellect, the mental quality of analysis. That's that fact-finding. What do I need to know about this decision I want to make? Or in the case of what I've been talking about, when you got the stuff happening in your life, what do I need to learn from this? And ask yourselves the right questions to get those answers. Not, why did I bring this on me? What did I do? I was so good. No, what do I need to learn from this? Is there something I need to understand? Is there something that needs further healing? Or was it just to bring my attention to it? Move on. Purpose. Well, we've been talking about purpose all year. Determination with incentive. Purpose. Finding our purpose. And decision. The ability to choose. Decision. Now, you know I'm a words girl, and so the mid-late, whatever, French and English and Latin, decision is to cut away. The word decision is to separate, to cut away, to decide, to separate. And isn't that what we do when we have a decision? Blue, green. Blue, green. We decide. We cut away all of the other factors that go, well, that blue won't go with what I'm wearing and with my skirt, but the green looks better with my palette. And then you cut away all those factors and you decide. And then I thought was really interesting, I love the internet. It said, according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, the word decision was first used in 1943. And I really wanted to drill into that further, and I didn't have time, and they didn't. And I thought, you mean people didn't make decisions before 1943? Were we all just subject to the fates, the weather, or whatever? I don't know. I guess we'll go this way. You make a decision at 43, but it did come back from medieval Latin and English, so maybe they used the Latin version of it to decide, and then someone decided to use it as a word in our English vocabulary in 1943, and that person must have had the will, the choice, the volition, the intellect, and the purpose to use the word in that manner. So I bring this all back just because we take our thinking for granted sometimes. And truly, that is what separates us from the other animals in the natural kingdom, is the ability to think and then act upon it. And what we do that's different from other spiritual centers or churches is when we pray, we are praying in an affirmative manner, meaning it isn't the King's X, please give me, please fix. We are knowing our good. We are affirming it. We're choosing what we want to express. Our intellect, we have done all of our fact-finding. We have volition and will towards something we want to create. Our desire. Again, the D-E word out of decision or desire, desire, D-E, of the Father. Sire, remember back, medieval again, sire, the Lord that ruled the manor of the Father, of... So from the desire that I have, I can make a decision to be that which I am meant to be. And I don't have to do it alone because I surrender to the higher power that is within me, that infinite intelligence that knows. Eleanor Roosevelt had a wonderful quote. Well, she had several, actually. I am who I am today because of the choices I made yesterday. So Chico, new thought. So are we still making the same choices we made yesterday? Are you still having the same thoughts about the stuff that happened yesterday or the stuff that happened on Wednesday? And therefore you're going to recreate it on Sunday or Monday because that's where you're thinking, that's where you're putting your energy, that's where the will and volition and choice are going. And then when you outpicture that same experience, you go, well, how did that happen? That's how it happened. You weren't choosing to think differently. And I'll close with this quote from Yanni Levine. I don't know who this person is. Life is a matter of choice. You can be a doctor who saves life, a lawyer who defends life, a soldier who protects life, or just be yourself, a person who touches my life. I believe that that is a common denominator for people who find their way to a spiritual living center, because we want to make a difference. We want to make a difference in the world, and we want to make a difference in ourselves, and hopefully that the difference in ourselves makes that difference in the world. So we don't have to be a doctor, a lawyer, a basketball player, a movie star, an epigeneticist. If we can choose and take a chance to change our thinking, to be our authentic selves, then we are touching lives. We are changing the world, one thought at a time. Let's do that together, shall we? In what we call as prayer. So I ask you to simply close your eyes. And the reason we do that, it's nothing fancy schmancy. It's to kind of block out the light, the colors, and all the external distractions of which there are a plethora. And we take the courage to get still and quiet and center ourselves. And we let the outer world just start to filter down around us so that we begin to become still and calm and listen to the still small voice within. And we can almost hear our own breathing, our own heartbeat. And this is your inner sanctuary. This is the most perfect sanctuary of all. And this is where you are at choice to take a chance to change your thinking through affirmative prayer. And I speak the following affirmative prayer in the first person so that you can say it along with me in your head if you want. I know that there is one life, capital L. I know that that life is the life of God, Spirit, call it by any name. And the one life, the one mind, that God is, I am. Meaning I am one with God. I'm one with nature, the trees, the stars, the sky. I am one with the joy that comes when we hear a beautiful piece of music or we see a sunset or we sense that feeling of accomplishment and pride or we see that love in someone else's eyes and we feel it together. I am one with all that and more. For there is no separation within me that keeps me away from that wholeness and that oneness. And therefore, knowing that I am that which I am, that light, that love, I may choose my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions. And I may choose that those thoughts, feelings, and actions are in concert with my highest vision, my values, and my heart's desires. I may know for myself that it outpictures as perfect expression in creativity, in what I place my attention upon, whether I'm retired or just starting school or building something wonderful in the garage or writing the next symphony. As I align with this knowingness, I know that my body temple now gets to vibrate to something called health, even if it hasn't been. That right here and right now, I get to epigenetically, as well as humanly and personally, change my thinking about what I know was health because it doesn't stay static. Every cell, every molecule, every thought, we are in an energy world of vibration, so it changes. So I change with it. And I may change my thinking and my feeling and my actions to reflect abundance where there may have been lack. And it's not always about finances. But where there has been lack, I know now that the doors have been blown open into the greater expanse of spirit to know wholeness, abundance, well-being, wealth, financial freedom. And I know that I have the opportunity to be so centered and so clear that I am operating from my own volition, choice, passion, and purpose to create my desires. And then if I don't like my creation, to create again and again and again. Because behold, I make all things new, including this next thought. I think it differently. And I season it with the sweetness of life, with my own enthusiasm, my own cosmic signature signs off on it, and I say, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Spirit, thank you. How great thou art. How blessed I am. And so I just wrap it all together, put it together in this wonderful, beautiful package. I release it, I let it go into spirit, and I ask that you join me as we close out and say, and so it is, and so I am, and so we are. Amen.